The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
The voice of the creative economy.
With Vincent Heeringa.
Yep, he's the chap up at idealogue.co.nz, occasionally blogging over there. G'day there, Vincent.
Good morning, Wammo.
Well, a deal has been struck with Warner's. Prime Minister John Key has come out with a bit of a deal. The Hobbit will be happening in New Zealand. But, I mean, is it good enough? Is the deal good enough, or was he going too far? What do you think?
Well, we know that there are lots of people who won't be pleased, and the interesting thing about this is he'll get criticised from left and from right on this, because there will be obviously the CTU and the union movement have used this as an opportunity to stick it to the government to say, well, they don't respect workers' rights, and this change in legislation is just an abuse of the opportunity to undermine the clarification between contractors and workers. And Helen Kelly was on the wireless on another station just this morning saying that very thing. So the lefties won't like it, but I actually think he'll get a lot of criticism from the right as well, because very unprecedented, I suppose, kind of intervention for a national sort of right-leaning government to be so responsive to a company that to change a piece of legislation just for one company. Seems pretty interventionist to me.
Is that so unusual for, I mean, okay, yeah, you use that word interventionist, but is that so unusual for the right to be pandering to business, big business and companies?
I suppose that's true in the sense that they have seized this as an opportunity to further make, they're calling it clarifying, but to the distinction between a contractor and a worker has got very, very narrow over the years, thanks to the previous Labour government. So yeah, this is in some ways it's almost nothing to do with the Hobbit. It's an opportunity to change that law to benefit employers. So yes, I think that's probably not that unprecedented. I think, though, if you look at the context of where New Zealand was throughout the 90s, and the government there was incredibly pure about saying one tax regime for all, no benefits, no picking winners, no tilting the scales towards one industry or one company, and so this decision is quite a departure for the national government from those very sort of pure years of the 90s.
But I guess, though, that this case is very special, though, isn't it? Because, I mean, there's no doubt that it will bring a lot of money into the economy, and it will affect various sectors, including tourism. But there's an element of being dazzled by the Hollywood lights here as well, isn't there?
I think that's a bit cynical. Just to reinforce that point about where we were in the pure 90s, that every industry claims that some sort of special status, whether it's manufacturers say that, because you can support manufacturing that creates spin-off jobs down the line, etc., and that's why you should protect car plants. And so every industry has its special pleading causes, and this one is probably, the film industry are the worst moaners and complainers about the lack of government support. But having said that, I personally think it's a great decision on the basis of this kind of spin-off effect, or the magnifier effect that this movie can have. I think what people are forgetting is that John Key is the Minister of Tourism, and he sees firsthand what happens when Hollywood is able to, or when New Zealand's able to leverage the size and the scale of the Hollywood ability to market New Zealand. And it's that thing that I think that is really motivating John Key, is he's locked in, and quite cleverly locked in, the ability to leverage this platform to market New Zealand internationally.
What do you make of the bells and whistles on this deal, including some kind of joint venture to market New Zealand?
Well, I think that's fantastic. And you think about how many, the quote is that there are 50 million copies of Return of the King sold on DVD, and every one of those DVDs will be carrying a little promo about New Zealand. That's awesome.
It's quite extraordinary. I can't think of any other movie that I've seen on DVD that would include a package like that.
No, that's right. And the what will be going on in the background is a kind of quick calculation about the media value of that, and saying, well, look, if we can, we can offset the investment because the tax breaks that they get effectively will be kind of offsetting what they'd be paying in GST here. So, we probably, I don't know what the numbers come out, but, let's say they come out at a cost-neutral position. That's going to be justified on the basis of the investment from, if you like, the tourist dollar in promoting New Zealand around the world. I remember a similar kind of thing they did with, they paid, Tourism New Zealand paid, now I can't remember the company that produces The Big Race, but they paid The Big Race and also Survivor to come down and be in New Zealand, and gave them enormous advantages to be here. But
I think The Bachelor as well.
Yeah, that's right. And the promo effect that happened, though, of promoting New Zealand, particularly to markets where New Zealand's not particularly well known, I'm thinking of the States mostly, that's how they would justify it, to say, well, we give them the break on this hand, but we get this media value on the other.
So the cynic in me, though, says that these bells and whistles on this announcement were purely there in this announcement to make John look the hero in this. When you see, I can't imagine that these deals have just been brokered in the past couple of days. Something like bonus extras on a DVD. This must have been worked out weeks ago.
I guess they probably were, but I wouldn't put it past him. He's a clever negotiator to slip these things in. And look, from a production point of view, from a pure actual cost of production, the cost of slapping another 5-minute film onto a DVD costs Warner's nothing. Absolutely nothing. And same with Peter Jackson. Actually, he'll have reels and reels of great footage of New Zealand that will never make it into the movie and just be on the cutting room floor. So, I don't think it's a big concession in a cost sense from Warner's, but I suppose it's more the opportunity and. Not that hard for them to execute. I wouldn't be surprised if it was slipped onto the table just yesterday.
You reckon? Well, I think it's great that the movies are going to be happening here and everything, but I do just feel that perhaps the fact that it was going to go away to Ireland or somewhere like that, I think that was just a little bit over-egged.
Oh, absolutely. What an opportunity for Warner's to come down and throw their weight around and use this as an opportunity to get a little bit more of a tax break. It's always been about the money for Warner's. But having said that, that was the reality of the threat, and from what they say, and I have every reason to believe it, that every government in the world was giving them tax opportunities to come, shift the movie to their country. And while you're speaking about Ireland, actually, it's worth noting there's a terrific piece by Russell Brown on Public Address, which you'd expect Russell to be just by nature tending towards the left side and supporting the actors' equity. In fact, he's really critical of them because the Ireland actors' equity, actors' union is sort of the equivalent there, have actually been working with their government and with the film industry over the course of the last few years to negotiate a much better position for actors, and have got there in a gradual kind of cooperative sense. And this kind of lurch of putting the ban on worldwide from New Zealand for The Hobbit has been incredibly counterproductive, and the end result is that the taxpayer is going to be paying more. I think the concessions that Kiwi has organised are pretty good, but just an interesting take there that it's not clearly just left and right.
No.
Actually, this discussion there was a smarter way to do this.
Vincent Heeringa, thanks very much for your thoughts on that.
Pleasure, Wammo.
Vincent Heeringa is up at idealog.co.nz blogging quite often as well.